an existing operation in a digital environment, we reduce agility. We don't add to it. So I'm less bullish on that specific opportunity. I do think that capturing what happens in real life is important, because we want to add traceability. We want to use that data for additional algorithmic work before and after. But to just encode something, and we've seen it in factories. This, and it predates AI models. The idea that we record what's actually, visual record of what's happening on the shop floor doesn't help a great deal in my view. So it's something I've been struggling to understand about a lot personally. And so what we're doing really is going way down with our customers and just understanding what are your specific, the material test upload. We understood from engineers on the shop floor that they're spending a lot of time just copy pasting test results, and they, it drives them mad. And that's not what they went to university for 10 years. That's just, and so that's kind of where we're at. And I think I've always believed that listening deeply to folks on the shop floor, rather than having these kind of, other than this kind of one great vision of reducing the time from idea to part, really spending a lot of time at grassroots and taking it from there is the most important thing that we can possibly do.
Agreed. It makes me think another question that we were pondering on this, the future of PLM webcast. I had a professor on, Patrick Hilberg, really good PLM guy, and he posed this question, and I thought it was really good. And maybe you guys are both on either side of this thing too. He was saying, like, these problems that Boeing had with the 737 Max, right? There were engineering problems. So in a perfect world, would PLM have solved those problems or not? And it's an open question, and I'm just throwing it at you guys, but I'm just saying how you'd react, because I think it's an interesting one. I mean, if we're in the world to make it a better place and to make better products, and yet one of these big products falls out of the sky multiple times, despite having done all the engineering, what do you guys think? Is AI like the bridge to make sure that those errors don't happen, because we can test it any n times more with a machine than we can with a human being? I don't know. What do you think? You seem to be thinking about it hard there, Andrew.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, we like to think about, as engineers, we think there's only engineering problems, but they're really business problems, right? And engineers, we work for companies that need to make money, and we can't spend all of our time just doing engineering stuff in a sense, right? And so I think AI is going to bring an opportunity to speed up development processes. This is exactly what we see with European automotive OEMs. They're under this pressure to design vehicles at the speed that China is developing vehicles, which is every 2 to 3 years for a new vehicle class, right? And if you think about a European OEM, it's 5 to 7 years. The challenge is the same, though. They need to engineer a car that meets all of the standards, all of the requirements in a much shorter period of time. And we know that this is not going to happen by just adding more people to the process, more human engineers to the system. We need to find a new way of engineering, designing. And yeah, I think agents and AI are that solution to that problem. That, I always say, if you're a European company, try to schedule a meeting in June, July, and August with 5 different people, and the first meeting you're going to come up with is in September, right? It's just how it works, and we need to find solutions to those problems if we want to develop products at the speed we need to, with the quality that we need, to make sure that incidents like you described, Michael, don't happen in the future. Because as engineers, yes, we are responsible for the outcomes of our work and what happens to the end users.
I'm not as familiar with the Boeing root cause analysis, but one root cause analysis that does come to mind is the NASA Climate Orbiter that crashed in the 90s.
Yeah, with the magic conversion thing, right?
Exactly, that would have easily been called. There's a lot. I truly believe that there's a lot of information that we currently just discard, that that is inside of the collaborative practice between engineers, and the more complex systems are going to get, the more people are going to have to collaborate on them, and it's really important that we leverage that information. I mean, what really pains me at the moment is that, you know, we're reverse engineering things, but we're bringing and we're doing that basically having to start at you know, the beginning again, because all we have is legacy drawings. We don't know why decisions were made, why tolerances were added, why materials were selected, and all that jazz. And what we're doing is we're recording it in yet another 3D model that doesn't record any of those, that intent. So we're making the same mistakes over and over again, despite the fact that we have these AI tools available, able to address some of those challenges by taking semi-structured or unstructured data and turning it into structured information. You know, that's kind of the value that we have in these tools. And it's insane to me that we're still making the same mistakes. So, you know, the forums like this, where we hopefully can shake people awake and make sure that they leverage these tools and start using them is an important step, and everybody has to start listening.
Agreed. And so I guess I usually wrap up the first part with a question about, we've now talked about AI, your opinion of AI before you started your current release and how you're using it in development. Now we're heading towards the end of 2025. Who knows what AI is going to come up with? I mean, just in the last 2 weeks, we've had the e-commerce platform from OpenAI. Oh, and then we're going to have adult content on OpenAI, which is like just another low, right? I mean, you know, who knows what's going to happen? But how has your position changed on it? Is it fundamentally different, or it's the same? Wait and see. We'll use what's the best in class, and we'll hold off on some of the other stuff. Where do you guys sit on it today?
I think I've done a complete turn myself. I would say I think AI and particularly large language models have a place in engineering. They've established a place in engineering by solving fundamental challenges that folks have, whether they're, you know, the low-hanging fruit you're talking about, Michael, of just making documentation more accessible, because who wants to read through a 300 or 3,000 page manual to understand where there was this one comment about something, to having you know, agents accelerate. We saw accelerate engineering processes from weeks to days and hours. It's here to stay. It's going to solve complex challenges. And I think what we're going to see in the future is, you know, today we have language models that are, you know, working on a text basis. I've talked to some very smart folks on my team about AI, and they say vision language models are where it comes next, so that we can start to understand and interpret 3D models. Because at the end of the day, engineers, we don't work with text, we work with physical objects described in 2 dimensions. And so I think when we start to see those classes of solutions come out of the research area and into commercial software, we're going to start to see some really interesting things done. And, you know, at Synera, we're always building towards this vision of, you know, Jarvis from the Iron Man movies. And I think when we start to see vision language models, we're going to start to see that really become a reality.
That's interesting, because when I spoke with Mauer at Leo AI last week, he said they've already created an LMM, a large mechanical model. So he's already put like all these mechanical engineering textbooks and best practices and all this stuff into a model, which then, if you're inside a 3D part and there's a fillet, it knows what a fillet and a chamfer is, and it can, you know, make a difference and say, no, actually, it can't be done there because the machine can't get in there, kind of thing. It's pretty interesting that we're getting there. It's not quite fluent in 3D, but it's getting better at mechanics. How about you, Andre? How's your thoughts on AI changed over the last 18 to 20 months?
I mean, you know, I'm seeing a lot of data. So, but basically not. But like the opportunity set that we identified 3 years ago when LLMs first started, or 4 years ago when LLMs first started really making waves, are still the same that we have today. You know, it's been clear to me, and I wrote, I think, a Forbes piece about this years ago, that, you know, these models aren't geared towards accuracy, so we can't expect them to replace 3D modeling, because that for mechanical design, because that requires accuracy straight out. People are working on those foundation models, but we're still a way away. So let's not fight to do something that these systems weren't created to do, but leverage them where we know them to be good, right? Like using them to turn unstructured data into structure. So it's been about understanding that, which is, the fundamentals of that haven't shifted. What has surprised me a little bit is that the product, it's not reflected in productivity gains as fast as I would have expected it to. Like societally, we are behind the curve. And if I look at why that is, I think there's fear in organizations, and also maybe software companies like Synera and Authentise haven't been good enough at delivering those tools to people that really make sense to them, that drive the value home. So a lot more work to be done, I think, in delivering the productivity gains of value to users. And once we do that successfully, once it's not like 97, I just saw a survey result that said that 97% of people have used AI, but all of them are less happy now than they were before. we want to. So yeah, I think there's still a lot of work to do in terms of making these tools accessible to people and making them useful. But the fundamentals of where I think these tools are going to be useful hasn't shifted. It's just that it's taking longer, as with every industrial process, it takes longer to deliver that gain than in other areas.
Too bad we have to wait for Jarvis a little bit longer, huh?
Yeah, always.
So when you guys go into take your products to market and you go into a customer, I like to think of digital maturity on sort of a spectrum of 1 to 5. 1 is like they're still using email and they're still using Excel. 5 being agentic, adaptive, automated digital twins, which is basically science fiction still. Although many science fiction writers I've read thought we'd be there by 2025, but we're still a good 10, 15 years out at least, I think. Where do you assess, like, are you able to assess going in? Like, are they, do you feel like in the industries you serve, the customers are more between 1 and 2 or between 2 and 3? Are there some outliers that might be as high as 3.5? I mean, just to get an idea.
I mean, I think it really runs the spectrum, right? You see folks maybe at the leading edge of digitalization, maybe typically smaller companies that are newer, right? They don't have existing processes that they've had to digitize. They start
and all the technical debt, right? They have less technical debt.
Exactly. As you think about, let's say, a company that's transitioning from one CAD version to the next CAD version, that is a massive undertaking to go through that transition and convert things. Whereas if you're just starting from scratch, well, you can pick whatever CAD product you want, whatever PLM product you want, and really establish processes there. So we see it all at Synera. I don't think anyone's at this 5 state yet, this ideal end state. But the nice thing is we're all working towards it. And, we've been working with companies in a collaborative manner where we bring a number of our customers together and take best practices of what works, what doesn't work. I think I always joke it's 2025 and most engineers still work in Excel every day. And I think in 2035 or 2040, it's still going to be the same thing. Engineers are going to have Excel documents all over the place. Why is that? It's easy to use. Everyone understands it. Maybe our desire should be, can we get people using specialized products that solve problems in an easier way? Hopefully. I think part of it too comes down to IT challenges of, as an engineer, what's easier for you to do? Open up an Excel document or create a SQL database in your IT infrastructure with the right permissions and all of this kind of stuff? No, the engineer is just going to pick Excel and store everything in Excel. So I think we as software companies have the challenge of bringing our software to our engineers where they are and with the tool set that they have or the knowledge they have and the capabilities they have, and help them then bring them further up into this digitalization process.
Andre, same observation.
Yeah,
or you got a different one?
I was gonna say, I think we might need to work on that 1 to 5 definition, because people are going to use email and Excel forever, right? Like I completely agree with that.
Okay, but But just take EBOM to MBOM conversion. That should
Yeah.
have been inside a PLM system 15 years ago, and it's still in Excel, you know? So that's what I mean. It's like the majority of engineering transformations, when you go from one department to another, is it done in an Excel spreadsheet sent by email, or is it done in an enterprise system where it should be, so that everything's recorded, all the design intent that you were talking about, that's recorded somewhere? It's not just like you were doing in Whisper. You're going to get those chats out of Teams where all that information is being exchanged and not actually landing in the system of record anywhere, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have an awesome opportunity to make life easier for people and not force them to change their process. Like, let them continue to exchange information on Teams and via Excel sheets. Like, learning a new tool, getting that adopted throughout the whole organization is a massive undertaking. Never happens. Like, never happens. Like, why? It doesn't even happen for an organization that's 30 people strong like ours. Like, why would we try and force somebody else to do that? So let's try and step away from this idea that that was like the major twist for me, is that I've always thought that we're going to end up turning intent into designs using generative design systems. But 5 years ago, I thought that would have to be done via like a structured JSON script and a standard, right? Now, I don't believe that. I think there will be the standard, but we'll be auto-converting it into that JSON script from unstructured data, and that won't be a problem. So I do think there's a problem in AI adoption, full stop. But I would be interested in working with you two in identifying those like 1 to 5. What does that actually mean to folks? And like Andrew, we got steering committees of customers that are working with us to identify what that means to them, but it's still only anecdotal. Like, it'd be actually pretty interesting to define that. I've had several conversations with large companies in the last 6 months that are only just starting at an organizational wide level to understand the use cases of AI in their company. Like, tens of thousands of engineers working there and still don't have a clue. Like, surely their engineers are already doing stuff, but like at the top level, they're only just waking up, which astounds me. Like, and so, I think like that's one level of that 1 to 5 is, like how agile are you at promoting the use, even if it's not like a centralized use case, but like how successful are you at advocating for the use of AIs and then capturing where that AI is generating value for your organization? Right?
Interesting. It's sort of, when you're saying that, it makes me think that I guess that engineering, we haven't had an iPhone moment, right? Because before, if you remember, we had I had a paper calendar and I had a Walkman or a CD player, and suddenly I had this iPhone thing, and everything was on one device, and suddenly that was my life, and everybody's life is on this damn iPhone. PLM and engineering in general hasn't had that moment. We're still, using Excel, like you said, and we have to because it's easy. And occasionally we'll have awesome tools like Synera and Authentise, and we can do some pieces of our job in it, but most of the people are still going to be using the Nokia and the Motorola flip phone, and not necessarily on an iPhone.
Or even a BlackBerry, right?
Yeah. Or a BlackBerry. Wow, talking about companies that didn't see the wall coming, right? So, but what happens though when you bring in Authentise and Synera, when people see the power of these tools, when you can get to a certain, maybe I should have been more clear. I was trying to talk more about data maturity. The fact that you've recognized that data in silos is a bad thing, and you need to have data custodians and data owners and data stewards in order to make sure that the flow of data across departments is smooth and governed, and so that you can use AI in order to gain data. That's, maybe I should have said that for me. That's sort of what I meant on the 1 to 5 also. It's just like in terms of data maturity. But when you come with your solutions, is there an aha moment, or is there maybe a slow ripple effect of the companies realizing, oh my God, if I gave better data to Authentise or Synera, I would have better results and more powerful results, and I'd be able to go faster and more efficiently?
Yeah, I think that's this idea of an aha moment. we see it all the time now. So
Really?
engineers start to use Synera to automate some of their processes. Then they bring in the agentic layer, and it's like, oh my gosh, there's these things we talked about, as science fiction that we can start to achieve now. And we often find that the next challenge they have to solve is this data challenge, because as engineers, data is scattered all over the place in different sources, and now there's actually, I would say, real value in consolidating that information and making it accessible to tools like Synera or tools like Authentise, because I think before it was organization for the sake of organization without so much value being brought there. And now we see that there's the 10x, the 100x value proposition coming from having your data connected in a way that wasn't before. And maybe one thing I wanted to get back to of why we haven't had these bigger iPhone moments and things like this. I think for our industry, engineering, typically processes are so unique to each company. So, you take two automotive OEMs, they probably have the same tool stack, more or less. They have the same department names, but the way that they engineer cars is maybe completely different from one another, right? And how do you create a system that works with these two different processes, right? And this is why always there's a degree of customization and consulting required to roll out systems. And maybe now, André is talking about working with unstructured data, and that's the advantage of AI, right? You can work with these different data pools and bring it into the right format. Maybe there is that opportunity that we can create solutions that work with all of these different processes in a way that doesn't create so much overhead for folks to implement.
I like that.
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, I haven't really seen I haven't seen a change in the urgency of kind of centralized data repositories. Having taught at Singularity University for a decade, I kept on hearing that refrain way before LLMs came in, right? It was acknowledged at this CIO or the VP level that, some sort of centralized data infrastructure was critical. And I haven't seen a step change of folks saying, this is either easier or more important now than it was before. So there's definitely, and that's kind of what Whisper's trying to address, is that making it easier to create those central repositories without forcing the user to use different tools. But the proof point is still out there. So yeah, I think that the aha moments, and Andrew alluded to this, are still stuck at the individual engineering level. It's not at the organizational level yet. And it's really tough for folks to learn, from those individual aha moments and create a consolidated view of what the world should look like for the whole enterprise. So it's possible that the productivity gains that we're making with AI and in engineering will be limited to smaller, more agile organizations. And that wouldn't surprise me, because we have historically seen that, the large enterprises are beholden to one CAD or PLM vendor or the other, right? I mean, Boeing signed a 10-year agreement with Dassault, and others have done some other things. Maybe that's where it's at. Maybe those gains aren't going to filter down anytime soon to large enterprises that are making our cars, and as a result, create more opportunity for enterprise disruption. Because the hypothesis that we're pursuing at the moment is that none of these organizations are very good at like the reverse engineering incubation that we're doing. They're not good. They're never going to get there. So let's do it and show them how to get there.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Andrew, have you seen that urgency? I'm not trying to undermine your point. I'm just I haven't seen it. I want to see it, but I haven't seen it.
I think we've definitely seen a change in the past year in the urgency to adopt AI. I mean, the automotive industry, we all know, in Europe is going through some challenging times, right? And when you're going through challenging times, it's a great opportunity to change and adopt new processes. And so you're right, André, we haven't seen the organizational company level aha moments yet. I think 2027 is probably that year where we see really big news from some companies about how they've had organizational transformation because of AI in the engineering domain. Today we're in I would say the individual seeing those aha moments and success stories and maybe pilot projects, the involvement of the CAO, the CTO, these sorts of things. And we're starting to see that, okay, I've done it for this one use case. What if we apply it to our entire product line now? What does it take to apply it to our entire product line? How do we go broad? How do we get bigger? And I think for Synera, that's what we'll see more and more in 2026 and 2027. I think we're going to see some really exciting success stories of, bringing the engineering time down from years and weeks or months to days and hours.
A friend of mine, we were talking. A friend of mine was saying that it's almost like, you've got an idea of a product in your head and you want it to be on the desk like right away. And, but I don't know, maybe by 2027 we'll have AI, AGI and fusion and quantum, maybe it'll just be the trifecta, who knows? So we got a couple minutes left to as a kind of closing question, because I noticed looking at my audience demographics, I do tend to get some younger engineers, and probably there's a lot of, well, absolutely. There's even on people our age, there's a lot of anxiety, right? Like AI is going to steal my job, right? However, I think from what you guys said and what I've taught when I've talked to other startups and folks is that AI should really be creating more opportunities, actually, because AI is taking away the more mundane, repetitive tasks and allowing you to be more creative. So my question to you too, and sort of a closing, is like, what advice would you give to people that are either in transition or starting out a career in order to find the right path that keeps them valuable as a human contributor and not easily replaceable by an agent or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. AI agents, they're going to change the way that engineers work, but we've been through these transitions before, right? And we haven't ended up with less engineers, we've ended up with more engineers. We went through the transition from paper drawings to 2D drafting on computers with tools like AutoCAD. There's still tons of architects out there in the world. We've made the transition to 3D, grew an order of magnitude again with the amount of engineers, designers needed. And I think AI is not going to be any different. We're still going to need engineers, but we're going to need engineers with different skill sets, right? And so the architects that didn't transition to AutoCAD, they survived for a while, but probably not the longest. The same for the AI era. And I think, we're seeing engineers need a new set of skills, right? To be a prompt engineer, right? To understand how to interact with large language models, how to get the right information out of them, how to have them work in the way that you need, is something that I think engineers are going to need in the future. Like all of us, right? We're all using AI in our jobs. As a product manager, my job is also probably, it is changing dramatically from what it was even just 2 or 3 years ago. So I think it's an exciting time for all of us, and we're going to see a lot of cool new things also possible that we never could have imagined a decade ago.
Yeah, in order for that truly to be more opportunity, we're going to need to see productivity gains dramatically increase, and I'm not seeing that, frankly, full stop. Right, like we have to. The only way we get more opportunities if we're more efficient as organizations and therefore are able to do more and have bigger gains to be able to employ more people, but it's not filtering through yet. So I think that we really need to start turning these ideas of improvements into actual bottom line improvements. That's a pretty urgent thing to do. That singularity we kept on talking about, we keep on talking about, is a generation or 2 generations ago, you had a job for life. Now you don't have a job for life anymore. You have a career that changes every 10 years, right? You used to be a microfinance investor, and now I run a software company in engineering, manufacturing. Right? Things change, and I think that folks need to get ready for that. I see it across my company, and we have engineers and commercial people alike. the single biggest determining factor on whether you're going to be successful or not is if you turn up every day like it's your first day and you bring energy to the table. Like, it doesn't, like, skills aren't that powerful. Like, it is that easy. You know, you got to like really force yourself to be there, and it's easier to do if you love your job. But the moment you switch off, you've already lost. The moment you express fear at adopting new tools, you've already lost, right? So you've got to turn up with real energy every day, and that's how you're going to be successful no matter what new technology comes along.
Awesome. Well, it was a fantastic conversation. I appreciate you guys both taking an hour out of your busy days to chat with me and then talk a little bit about AI. Did you guys have a good time?
Loved it. Thanks.
Always great to connect.
Thank you. Well, I hope you have a good time. This is Fino once again. I'll be back with a couple of French startups pretty soon in use and SP3D. And in the meantime, thank you. Thanks to Andre and Andrew, and we'll see you next time. Cheers. And then, of course, the recording will be on the YouTube and LinkedIn as